Okay. So I got these headphones for Christmas and I knew they were very nice, but I took them out of the box and it's the headphones and the cord. And then there's a little card and it just says, scan this for the instructions, right? For the
Yeah.
headphones. And I'm like, it's headphones. There's no buttons on them and a cord. Like, I don't need instructions, right?
If anybody needs instructions, it's you when it comes to technology.
Seriously. So yesterday when we tested this out, I'm like, why can't I? Like, I could hear you, but it was soft. There's no volume button on it. It's just on my phone. So I'm like, ding dong, I'm going to read the directions. So apparently when you put the plug in the headphone, you have to twist it and then it like goes in all the way. And now I can hear you perfectly.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So if you're joining us now, I like to pretend that we're like a live radio show and that people are just tuning in. But if you're just tuning in now, Megan and I have just seamlessly started recording with our microphones and our headphones. And now the quality of our podcast should be better.
We have had so much trouble over the last few weeks. It has been unbelievable. And I can't believe this actually just worked.
Let's cheers to this.
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
So I have coffee and then I found some espresso vodka in the cupboard.
Yummy.
So I poured a splash of that in there.
Okay. I went with, since it's the end of the season, well, you know, I went with the last of my mulled wine.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny. So I'm on a health journey now.
Okay. You're on a lot of journeys.
I know. I always am. But I've been losing some weight.
You look great.
Thank you. I track my calories. I'm not being crazy, you know, because I eat whole foods and I like cook. And so it's just more like assessing what I'm consuming. And I had to log this as my morning snack.
So I also track my calories. And a few years ago, I lost a lot of weight doing that. It's super helpful. But I've been trying to get back on track. And my problem right now is I do great during the day. And then I have a bunch of calories left. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm just going to eat dinner and then have a glass of wine and then eat a handful of chocolate. And I'm sure it won't add up to it always. And then I wake up the next morning. I'm like, why isn't the scale going down?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is kind of crazy because, like I said, I've changed as a very grown-up adult, I changed how I eat. Like, I cook and I try to not eat shit. I mean, hello, I make tea out of fucking pineapple rinds.
Yeah, you are on a journey.
But when I started tracking my calories, I was like, oh, hello. It adds up quickly.
It's kind of a wake-up call if you've never done it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big time. Big time. Which I think is so, you know, again, we're so good at this. We did not plan to have this conversation.
No.
So when Megan and I start every recording session, we start it and we start talking. But we're talking about catering today.
Catering.
Which is food. Hello.
Wait, time out. Are we going to tell them why we're talking about catering today?
Yes.
Or if we're not, I can just cut this out.
No. Tell them. I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, we have a really fun guest coming on next week, and maybe we'll keep the name of the guest a secret.
It's my best friend's husband.
Okay.
If anybody wants to try to guess.
All right, I'm going to cut that out.
Oh, yeah.
I want people to think that we're having guests come on, not because they're all your best friends, Jen.
Oh, okay. I don't know this person. I don't know him at all. Anyways, it's a surprise.
It's a surprise. It's a caterer, and they're from Milwaukee this time. So it's going to be a good guest.
Yes. Very excited. So we thought, because this person coming on, who I don't know, is is going to give us the actual, like, we have a lot of questions about catering. It's going to be really insightful. And we thought we would just get our like juices going. So we have good questions. That's what this episode's about, essentially.
Yeah. I was sitting there kind of listening to you, and the whole time I was just thinking about how impressed that our microphones were working. Like, I don't think people realize how exciting this is.
I can't wait. So Megan does all the editing, so she has to listen to us constantly. I have to listen to our episodes a couple of times because I pull like sound bites and do the social media. And the last couple of episodes, I'm like, God, I sound like shit because my microphone, we were having so much trouble.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to sound professional again, at least in quality of sound.
Yeah. This is very similar to how we operate with weddings. So like after a wedding, you keep in touch with the people. After the podcast, you're listening to our podcast multiple times. As soon as I am done editing the podcast, I like never listen to it again.
It so is. And then I'll like text you and be like, we're so funny. Do you remember when we said this?
And I'll be like, no, I've blocked it already.
Well, today we're going to start out because we haven't shared our pet peeves in a while.
Yeah.
So we decided that we would share our catering pet peeves.
Yeah, to get Dan really excited.
To get our guests.
To get our guests really to get our guests really excited about coming on.
Anyways, there's a lot of Dans in catering in Milwaukee. Okay, yes, we want to get him really excited. And when I thought of my pet peeve, I got so pumped to share it because it's such a good one. Can I go first?
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, you better go first, although then mine will be a letdown, but it's fine.
Do you want to go first?
No.
Okay. One of my biggest caterer pet peeves is when those MFers touch those tables, like start to deconstruct the tables while the event is still going on. Now, I will clarify. Is it okay to clear all the plates and the silverware and the glasses? Totally. Salt and pepper shakers, napkins, totally fine with. Once you start blowing out candles, once you start rearranging floral arrangements so that they're prepped to strike these linens the minute it turns midnight, I get real pissed. And here's why. You have a question.
I was just thinking to myself, I don't think many caterers mess with that stuff here.
I've experienced it a few times. It is not my caterers. The caterers I work with are incredible and they know.
Right. I'm sure it's happened. It's funny because we don't discuss this ahead of time. So that is also a pet peeve of mine when a vendor starts to break things down early. I guess my point of what I'm saying is usually it's not the caterer that's coming in and doing it.
Yes.
There's mostly florists in Milwaukee here that also bring the candles and all the decor stuff. And they don't want anybody touching their stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I've had florists try to do that too. And I turn into Mama Bear and I'm like, what are you doing? But to me, it's like, I think a point Megan and I have already driven home, will continue to drive home, is once your wedding's over, we want to go home.
Yeah.
Like we're exhausted.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah. We're mentally, physically, emotionally exhausted. So it's not like I don't understand trying to stay ahead of the game. One time this was at a hotel. I don't do hotel weddings anymore, but they were like striking table linens. And I was like, absolutely not. Put the linen back down.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah. So my pet peeve is not normal, I think I should say. Like this is not how most caterers work. And you don't have to be studying your tables at 11:45 to make sure they're not doing it. But I've experienced it and it drives me crazy.
Yeah. Linens are huge. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
And even blowing out candles. The couple has spent so much money to create this false reality. I don't know what's a better way to say that.
Yep. But listen, everything will stay beautiful. But if you are in that room past end time, those candles are getting blown out.
I do tell my couples that they have until like 10 minutes after midnight, and then they're going to watch their dreams be deconstructed.
Yeah, it's like right on the dot here.
Yeah.
Like you got to be out of there if you don't want to see it. Most people don't care.
I actually say that though. There was a wedding I had a couple weeks ago where the mother of the bride was like the visionary behind the whole thing. And she was not leaving the space because we were moving to another space for the after party. And I finally went up to her and I said, I really don't think you want to see this be deconstructed. And she was like, I don't. And I was like, then please follow me and exit into your new alternative reality. So that's my pet peeve. And now I feel weird sharing that because it's not normal, but it's happened.
Yeah.
I feel vulnerable, Megan.
I've read for podcasts that it's good to say vulnerable things.
Okay, good.
But honestly, though, Pet peeves, when we share them, I think they're all not going to be normal because
Yeah.
we're not working with people who do shitty things all the time.
Yeah. It's just occasionally.
It's just occasionally. My
Yeah.
thing is not all the time either.
Yeah. Okay. Go.
Okay, so my pet peeve is when you hire a caterer and you go to the tasting, and I guess for a group tasting, this doesn't apply because usually for a group tasting, it's a whole bunch of people and you're just getting a small plate of different things to try it. But when you go for a private tasting, you're going to see full plates of food come out, and they're usually going to show you an example of what that plate of food will look like on the day of your wedding, right?
Right.
And my pet peeve is when a caterer makes a big deal of saying, this is exactly how your entree is going to look, the exact size of the salad. And then on the day of the wedding, I'm there. I see what comes out of the kitchen and it doesn't look the same. Even if the couple doesn't notice it, or maybe like they just let it go, right? Because what are you going to do at that point? And you don't want to be crabby on the night of your wedding. I notice it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for future reference when that's going to happen. And I could tell you, I've experienced it a few times and it drives me absolutely insane. Put out the food that you showed them the first time.
Correct.
See, now I sound kind of crabby, but I think that's legit because that's what they think they're paying for.
Well, it is legit. That is legit. And that does happen, unfortunately. And I will say one of my favorite caterers here and my like catering manager partner that I work with, who's incredible. She and I had a wedding where that happened, where she was watching them plate the vegetarian plates. And she was like, this is not it. And she made them replate them because we take photos.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I'm at tastings with my couples, I take photos of everything.
Yeah.
And all the caterers down here say they're taking photos in the back. So yeah, that's a good pet peeve. Don't false advertise. And I could get into that with like every vendor. Don't false advertise.
Right.
Okay. Well, those are our pet peeves. 2 of them.
2 of them. Yeah. We
Yeah.
don't need to be crabby all day.
We don't want to scare Dan. Oh, I mean, we don't want to scare our next guest away. It's going to be such a surprise.
Oh my God. We're going to have to do better for the next guest. Keeping them a surprise. We've got some good ones lined up.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. So,
since we're number 34 on the charts now.
Did we go down?
Or 32 or whatever.
We were 32.
We're not on the charts. It was just a random search.
Oh, again, everybody, I have no idea how podcasts work.
Yeah, I could tell her anything and she'd be like, okay. Okay. So caterers are amazing. Everybody has a caterer. Obviously, different types of caterers. There's the caterers that, you know, you have a venue and the caterer is with the venue, right?
In-house catering.
In-house catering. And then there's when you have a venue and you have to find your own caterer.
Do you have a preference, or do you have do you have a preference, and B, like, do you have pros and cons that you have of each? I'm curious.
That's a tough question because there are in-house caterers that I love. One pops to mind, and one was actually something I was going to talk about today because we were going to talk about some amazing or different types of catering experiences that we've done over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And one of in-house caterer provided that to me multiple times. So I don't want to rag too much on them. I think that sometimes it scares couples a little bit to have to pick a venue and then be committed to that caterer.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 that come to mind that are good in Milwaukee. So yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I do lean towards a preference of outside caterers over in-house catering.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that, though, just comes from the types of weddings I do and the venues I work in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not doing anymore like I don't do hotel, country club.
Yeah.
But I will say in-house catering, I find the service is always so good because it's in-house. So these are like employed, not like staffing company.
Right.
And again, it's just, to me, the service is just always so impeccable when it's in-house in the venues I've worked in.
Yeah, and there's typically a kitchen there, which there's
Yes.
not in all venues.
Right. And a lot of times, or all the time, when you're doing in-house catering, I mean, those are the venues that can do tableside ordering because they're a country club or a hotel. So, they have that food already there, so it's not going to go to waste.
Yeah, we don't really do that in Milwaukee.
Mm.
That would be a nightmare. I'm just thinking about it. I was like, oh God, it would take forever.
Well, it's limited options and it works.
I get it. It's just, I don't like that. Can my couples not do that? No.
Well, that's though when you have to do like a 5-course meal, because that's when they need soup, salad, because they need the time.
Can we not do that either? I don't want people sitting at the table for 5 hours. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. See, like I'm into that though.
I would like to attend a wedding like that. Okay, we're going off topic. These are just preferences of ours. It has nothing to do with the caterer's ability to be a good caterer.
Yes. But then I was going to say, my preference for outside caterers is the creativity. It's, I mean, the coolest things I've ever done food-wise at a wedding was not in-house catering.
Mm-hmm.
It was outside catering because they are willing to go there because they can.
I have a split.
A split?
Yeah. If I was thinking of like the coolest things that I have or my clients have done with wedding, it wouldn't all be, can we call them outhouse caterers?
I thought you were
just kidding. That's like a dad joke.
I have a split of champagne. Is that what they call it?
I think so.
A split of champagne's like a little bottle?
Yeah.
Yeah, anyways. So, speaking of, what is something you've done with a caterer that was like really epic?
Okay, so it was epic. I wanted to start with this one because you were there.
I was.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what you're going to share. Yeah.
And it was epic in the sense that we hadn't been doing this for very long. And one of our clients, we were fortunate that they came to us with a very amazing idea. And we were fortunate that we had a caterer, an outside caterer, agree to do this. So we had this great couple from New York City, and they came to us with this idea of doing a stations menu, which I typically hate for dinner, but it was very popular, like 8 years ago? Super popular.
It's essentially a buffet broken up into more expensive pieces.
Right, except your guests don't understand that it's not a buffet, and so they just pick up their plate and go to each thing because they're worried they're not going to get food, and then they sit down. There's no mingling. It doesn't work.
And it's more expensive because of that.
Yes.
And the servers and whatnot. That's another episode.
Yep. So they wanted to do custom stations, and each station was going to be a replica of one of their favorite restaurants in New York City.
So cool.
It was so cool. And so they even got recipes. They asked for recipes from the restaurant, from some of their favorite dishes. The caterers, I mean, this is obviously completely off their menu, replicated it. We had a special tasting for them where we tried all this different food. And obviously they're the only ones who know what the food from these restaurants tastes like. But yeah, we had like a cassoulet from somewhere, like if I'm remembering correctly.
A what?
It was like like I'm saying cassoulet because that's French, but it's like a little casserole dish, like a baked dish. And I have the menu somewhere. I could go back and find it.
I just remember the oysters because there was like a raw bar.
Yeah, they had a seafood restaurant that they really liked. And so we had a huge oyster bar where a guy was shucking fresh oysters for everybody.
I have to share too. I was still living in Milwaukee when this wedding happened. And when I lived in Milwaukee, I was younger, poor, and my exposure to different cuisines and food was limited. And then I moved. So this happens, right? This wedding. And I'm like, oh my God, like there's oysters, right?
Yeah.
And then I moved to Chicago and it's just like totally opened up my world. And now I'm like, oysters at a wedding. Okay.
Right. So I'm saying it was cool though, because we were so new.
We were.
we didn't know that you could do stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
And so the caterer being willing to just customize everything. I mean, you have to remember the caterers have these set menus, and most of the time, well, not most, I don't know. Well, maybe we'll have to ask our guest,
Yeah.
who I won't say his name.
We don't know. Well, everybody knows now.
Well, okay. So they have those items on the menu for a reason. They think that they're great and they know that they can execute them well for a large group of people.
Mm-hmm.
So many times that is what is served at a wedding, what is on the menu,
Mm-hmm.
maybe limited customization, but not completely off menu. And so the caterer being willing to take a chance
Mm-hmm.
because it's their name on the line. If they say, like, yes, we're going to do this,
Mm-hmm.
and then it comes out crappy. I mean, the wedding was not cheap back then. That's their name, right?
Totally. That caterer, by the way, I mean, made me fall in love with caterers. Well, the catering manager. I loved him so much.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was fun. Yeah, no, I think for me as a wedding planner, period, is I want to work with people who are creative and who want to collaborate and create something that really is custom for the couple and the guest experience. So, food, when I'm doing a consult with a couple, I'll always say, because you want to make sure it's a good fit.
Right.
So I'll say, here's what my couples prioritize: food and music, period. And, I also consider food to be part of the design.
Mm-hmm.
I think of an event as like when you talk about designing an event, it's like it should be cohesive from the moment the guest opens the invite until they leave. Like everything needs to flow. Everything should be, should make sense. So I love when a caterer will do that with me. And so one of my all-time favorite, and I know she's listening, by the way. She texted me yesterday and said she's listening to the podcast. So I'm going to share. I won't say her name, but email us if it's you. But we had a wedding, and this was a COVID wedding that got moved. So it was, pushed to like 2022, I think, is when we finally did it. And this couple was just so cool and loved food, didn't love dessert.
Okay.
Like just we're not dessert people,
Mm-hmm.
which I get. I actually hear that a lot. We don't like cake. We don't really care. I'm like, that's fine, but you have to have dessert.
Right.
And I'm going to post a picture of this and the picture doesn't do it justice. Like when I got the pictures back, I'm like, it just doesn't, look as cool as it did in person.
Yeah.
But the caterer was willing to do this because I was like, let's create something like they love charcuterie, they're into that. So like, let's create just this like epic station. And it was like 2 tables and it was on farm tables. And they built this, like instead of a cake, it was like, and we didn't create this. I saw this, the cake that's made out of wheels of cheese.
Oh, right. Yes.
You know what I mean? I didn't make that up. But that was like the centerpiece. And then around it was just this array of fruits and nuts and cheeses and donut, like small desserts.
Yeah.
It was insane. Like you just looked at it and you didn't want to touch it because it was like art.
So what happened to the big wheels of cheese?
You could eat it.
Did people cut into it?
Yes.
How much of the wheels of cheese actually got eaten? I'm just curious.
I'll ask. I bet she knows. I bet the caterer knows.
Yeah. Because that's a lot of cheese, right?
It was so much cheese. I mean, it was so much food.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. Like, I know it can be kind of wasteful, but it was stunning.
I think a lot of times at weddings, I have clients all the time. I tell them, you don't need to order that much, but they want to just for the aesthetic.
I know. I'm not a very green planner.
So you don't care, is what you're saying?
Keep that sigh in there because I want people to know that it really is like an internal battle.
Yeah, but what are you going to do if they say they like it? You're not going to be like, no, the planet.
I know. I mean, I do care, but it comes with it.
Exactly.
And like, I will, of course, do certain things with couples that really care about it. But at the end of the day, It's like, do you want it to be cool or lame? I'm just kidding.
Right.
Oh God. Oh God. Oh, here comes the trolls.
No, we don't have any trolls. I actually would love some trolls because that would mean that people would actually email us. Things I thought would be more of an issue when we started this podcast was trolls.
Yeah, I mean, they'll come, I'm sure. They'll come.
I don't know.
Once we're 30 on your random search, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, exactly. Just my internet search.
Oh, yeah. But anyways, that was really cool. It's not that, I guess, exciting to hear about, but I just thought it was, I mean, it took like 3 people to build it.
Yeah. And then we can see pictures of it.
Mm-hmm. And you'll see a picture and you'll be like, really? 3 people? But in person, it was great.
Okay. So I know that you like outside caterers more because of the customization.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that up here, I have one hotel group that I have done really great customized menus with.
Love that.
It's the Marcus Group hotels, so it's going to be the Pfister, the St. Kate.
Pfister, I don't even know her.
No, I'm not keeping that. I'm trying to say something nice about a nice hotel.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. You can bleep that.
Jesus Christ.
Anywho.
Okay, so it's the Pfister, the St. Kate, and the Hilton City Center. They're all Marcus hotels. And the Pfister and the St. Kate in particular have done some amazing customized menus for me. I think, God, I'm losing track of time. 2 years ago, we came to them with an idea, but there was a lot of Italian influence. And so it was all custom recipes, sauces, all that kind of stuff. And it's just a matter of proposing your ideas sometimes and then going to the tasting and being open to providing feedback.
You have to be open to that.
Yeah, especially if it's like a family recipe that you are asking them to try to recreate. They don't know what that tastes like.
Yeah. They're like, I'm not your Nona.
Right. So, especially with younger couples, sometimes they're a little intimidated. You know, you're just trying to be polite.
Mm-hmm.
But I always tell my couples, you know, you don't need to be a bitch about it.
No.
But you can provide feedback about what you want
Yes.
changed. It's not going to offend anybody.
That is pretty much the whole point of a tasting. That's what I tell my couples is like,
Right.
you're tasting this and it's like, if it's too salty, tell them that.
Right.
Or is there another shell we can use instead of this shell? Can we do it on a cracker?
Shit. Now I just thought of another pet peeve.
Oh, go for it.
It is when a couple goes for a tasting, and a lot of times when you're doing a tasting with a caterer, you have a limited number of items that you can choose. So let's just say you can taste 8 appetizers, 4 salads, 4 entrees.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You don't need to choose to taste the mozzarella and tomato ball skewer.
Yes.
We all know what that tastes like. Choose something. You can still order the mozzarella ball and tomato skewer on your wedding menu, but you don't need to try it. Choose things to taste that you're unsure about and narrow those down.
I am non-verbally indicating to Megan that I want her to continue to preach because I agree.
Yeah.
So much so. The other thing I say is like the whole point of the I keep saying the whole point of the tasting and there's like 5 points.
Yeah.
But to see what they're capable of. So if you leave the tasting and you didn't love the salmon, how it was cooked, but you loved everything else, and the caterer says to you, oh, we can do it with a dill sauce or whatever, you just trust that. Like you're not going in for another tasting because you have sampled everything and you get it.
Right.
This caterer is insanely good.
Right.
And you just didn't like the tomato basil sauce.
Right.
But it's going to be prepared differently. And now you can just rest assured. You know what I mean?
I agree. Okay. It's an in-house caterer and they do really great stuff. I had a wedding last year at the St. Kate and it was very similar. They had some Persian food in there. They had custom food from one of their restaurants. We did stations for cocktail hour and then came up and did a completely off menu dinner service. And they did a great job.
Off menu, like ordered? Tableside?
No, like it wasn't dishes from their menu.
Oh, like off of their menu.
It was something just completely different
Yeah.
and it was an in-house caterer. So don't think that just because it's an in-house caterer, they can't do that. I will also shout out Bartolotta's, all the Bartolotta's venues here because they will also do off menu.
Okay. Well, I feel bad not shouting out now. I should have been shouting out.
I just wanted to because we were saying good things about them. I wasn't bitching.
Okay. I have been shouting out Blue Plate earlier and Food for Thought. Those are two of my favorite caterers, and J&L. Oh, well, I didn't shout them out yet, but I love J&L.
Did they do a different wedding of yours that you really liked?
Yes, actually. So they were part of that, that air bath, the bathhouse wedding I did that I'll talk about forever.
Yeah.
They did that with me, and they were the perfect fit because they got it.
Mm-hmm.
They really got it. They were very accommodating. This was a wedding where we were just doing appetizers, drinks, and to-go lunches because it was like during the day, and then we did a dinner at another venue later. And JNL was willing to do a tasting, even though it wasn't a full shebang meal, which I appreciated because for me, it's just a huge part of the planning experience. It's like so exciting and they were willing to customize this experience and make like really upscale to go lunches and collaborated with me. It was great. Speaking of family recipes and customization, I did a wedding once. This was also actually post COVID, or like my couples who were 2020 couples that we moved to 2021 or whatever, 2022. I felt like what happened with those couples is they then were like, go big or go home. We've had to wait. We haven't done anything for a year.
Yep.
This is now people coming together. So I saw a lot of my weddings morph a bit as we were then executing them in 2021. And I had a really cool couple. We actually did 2 weddings for them. We did a small in 2021 when their wedding, or 2020 when their wedding, it was when they could do like 40 people or 50, whatever, could gather. But for their big one, they didn't want a dance floor. They never did. So that wasn't like a COVID thing. So we did do a 3-hour dinner. It was mini, like it was 8 courses, so small courses with a wine pairing. But each course had like a huge significance to the couple. The groom was Mexican. The bride's family was like German, Polish. And so it was this just totally customized menu, family recipes. This was with butter and vine, and they did it. They got all the family recipes, even for the dessert courses. Like they were making grandma's cookies. And that was awesome.
I would love to attend that wedding.
Me too.
Yeah. All these couples who are like, I just want to get on the dance floor. I just want somebody to serve me a 10-course meal.
Seriously. I did a wedding recently where it was just so no dancing. And it was at a restaurant, and we had the chefs come out between courses and explain each course. Like, why don't I have friends? Like
we need different friends.
I need to find friends that plan cool weddings.
I mean, there's other cool stuff that comes with the dancing. I just think that I'm aging into the era of me wanting a longer dinner.
Fair. Dancing is great, obviously, but I just think sometimes it's cool to really highlight the dinner. Wine pair me any day, please.
Oh, God, yeah. I think some of the coolest menus do come out of the couples that are bringing 2 different backgrounds, heritages, cultures, religions, anything that influences food. When they're bringing 2 different perspectives to the table, the personalized menus that come out of that are some of the best.
I make that happen. Like I make my couples do that. I had a couple, this is not even a big deal, but I had a couple who they met at a Halloween party and they got married the weekend after Halloween. So it was like November.
Mhm.
And I was like, your dessert station needs to be not Halloween themed, but like there should be candy, apple
Mm.
cider, spiced donut. Like,
Yeah.
how can we not nod to this fact that like we had Halloween candy like sprinkled all over the table.
Mhm.
People loved it.
Mhm.
Who doesn't love a mini Snickers?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking how we might have to have an episode on how guests love things that are unique and different, but sometimes it's very hard to convince couples to step outside the box and do something different because how many times do you hear, "Well, my friend just did this. I just want the same thing as this wedding I was at. Here's a picture of this. I just want this. I like that." It's like you can like that. That was great, but let's do something different.
I can't and I won't. And if you're
Yeah.
listening to this and you're thinking about hiring a fresh event to plan your wedding and you want to recreate what your friend did, I'm not into it. I
Yeah.
can't. I cannot do it.
Yeah.
And I want couples who are going to go there. I really do. I get that more and more and more often. And it makes my heart so happy because it's just like
Yeah.
the coolest experiences are the ones that are a reflection of you. And your guests know that.
Yeah. I think it comes down to being a little nervous, right? To put yourself out there.
And it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So they're also like, well, maybe I'll just do blush and ivory because, and I'm like, kill me now. I love blush. I wear blush every day, not on my cheeks, like on my body. I wear pink everywhere. But, you know,
Yeah.
so
Um
any.
no, I'm just
Did you
thinking.
just hear my soul dying a little bit? It's like, oh.
The last thing I wanted to shout out in terms of catering, I don't have specific caterers that I'm going to shout out with this, but I will tell you, I had a few years where I was doing a lot of Indian weddings,
I love Indian weddings.
and the food that gets brought in from some of the restaurants in Milwaukee, unbelievable.
Same in Chicago.
It's so good.
I agree.
And they just want to feed you, and there's so much of it. And
Yes.
it's typically more of a buffet style.
Yes. But I love it.
It's really good.
It's so funny because if a couple came to me who's like there's like not an Indian influence in their wedding and they're like buffet, I'm like, no.
Right.
But the minute an Indian wedding comes up, I'm like, let's do a buffet. I mean, we have to. And it's amazing. And I agree. The food is so good.
Yeah. That made me think of one other thing is kind of talking about that, the buffets and going outside the box, guest experience. Do you know I had one wedding and I still think of it because I swear the guests love this food just as much as getting an 8-course filet mignon, whatever.
Is it McDonald's?
No, it was Caucasian Mexican food.
Oh, Caucasian Mexican food.
It was a huge buffet.
Yes.
And it was,
Yes.
ground beef
Yes.
and shredded cheese. And
Yes.
it was a more budget wedding, but they loved
Mm-hmm.
this type of food. And we did this huge buffet spread. And guests were like, you're kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's guacamole. There's like, because when do you get like all that stuff?
Yes.
And the caterer went. This was not their fault. I'm not saying like, oh, the caterer ran out of food, right? Like they brought tons of food.
Is the caterer it's not any connection to our guest, is it?
No.
Okay.
It's a Mexican restaurant in town.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So like they didn't mess up and not bring enough food. It was just that people loved it so much that they were like, we're going to run back and just get a little bit more because like they loved it.
I love that.
Yeah.
The caterer that already everybody knows who's coming on, they did a walking taco bar for our late night snack for one of my couples last year. And that was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's fun. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question, going back to the Indian, I just am curious because I never did yes, I did. I did an Indian wedding with you. It's the same as in Chicago where like it's the restaurants that do it. So, right, like you do it at a hotel or whatnot, but like you still then have the outside caterer, the Indian restaurant come in to do the food.
Yes. So it's a little bit tricky because you're still having to meet the minimums through the venue for food and beverage.
Right.
And then you're bringing in an outside caterer who you're also paying for. So it typically ends up being a lot. But this is the culture and what type of food they want. So
Yeah.
that's what we have to do. I will say that, again, the Pfister, their in-house team will do some pretty good Indian food.
We have a couple of catering companies here that will do Indian food that passes the test.
Yeah.
That's also like kosher. So one thing, if you're not planning your wedding with a planner, we don't recommend that. But if you are, one of the things if you're talking with caterers, what we recommend you do is if there are any kosher guests, if there are, so dietary restrictions, no big deal. People always are like, oh my God, we have gluten-free and vegans.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares anymore. That is so easy to accommodate.
Right.
Actually, at least in my experience, most of the entree options are gluten-free, like already, period.
Yes, because it makes it easier for the caterer.
And no contamination and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Vegan, easy. We don't care.
Right. I mean, we care. We need to know.
Yeah. Oops. You know what I meant. Sorry.
I know what you meant.
We do care. Very much so.
Somebody's going to not tell the caterer and be like, Jen and Megan on their podcast said nobody cares.
No. Yeah, we care. And actually, when we submit final counts, we are telling the caterers which guests are at what table and what their dietary restrictions are.
Yes.
And even, I'll get a dietary restriction like, I'm allergic to pineapple. And even if there's not pineapple on the menu, I still submit that to the caterer.
Yep.
But my point is,
and you're thinking to yourself, you're not allergic to pineapple. You just don't like it.
Fine.
But okay, here we go.
Or when people are like, I'm allergic to garlic, I'm like, I feel bad. Like, why go on living?
Yeah.
No, so we care very, very, very much. Yeah. And so do your caterers. So what was I being? Laissez-faire? I don't know. Whatever. Mm-hmm. My point is those are easy to accommodate. But what are more challenging are things like that, like kosher, it's like you need to tell the caterer ahead of time because a lot of times those are meals that are coming from another place, because.
Yes, it can't be prepared kosher can't be prepared in the same kitchen. So it's a completely different thing.
It can't. I did my first kosher, totally kosher, Orthodox wedding 2 years ago. And I learned that a rabbi has to come and bless the kitchen. Yeah. Did you know that?
I did. And maybe we'll do a different episode just because this one's getting kind of long we could do an episode of things if you're looking for a caterer, and as Jen likes to say, if you're raw dogging your wedding and doing it by yourself, things that you should look for, ask, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. This is getting kind of long, but also I think you're cutting everything out that I said. I was so funny on today's episode and Megan's cutting most of it out, but just know that one day when you get the
blooper reel.
Bloopers. Yeah. All right. Well, next week we have our surprise caterer on and we can't wait. Anyways, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining. And we hope you pop on to hear more from our surprise guest next week.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for joining us again this week. If you have a wedding or travel-related story of your own that you would like us to share in a future episode, send us an email to theplannerspassport@gmail.com.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram at theplannerspassport and follow all of our travel and wedding businesses, including We Roam Solo, Dare to Dream Travel, and Dare to Dream Weddings. And please, if you enjoy our show, remember to rate, review, and subscribe from wherever you are listening to this podcast.